Hey there, Game Master. Today you have the pleasure of speaking with GM Jim from Wizards and Wordslingers, and we are going to chat about Critical Role's new tabletop role-playing game, Candela Obscura. It's from their publishing arm, Darrington Press, and it's a D6 dice pool system based on something they call Illuminated Worlds. Also, they're using it in their brand new actual play series. It's an early 20th century, steampunky, Peaky Blinders kind of thing, with magic and top hats and all kinds of weird crap. The full game isn't out until late 2023, but I've been reading through the Quick Start Guide. Today I'm going to break it down for you and show you the best bits you can steal to add into your own Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder game. Come along, let's check it out. First, let's talk about Gilded Dice, and to do that I need to explain actions and drives. In this game you have actions, which are like skills, and you have drives, which are a resource you can spend to improve your action rolls by adding dice. When you spend a drive point, you add a die to the pool that you're rolling to get a higher chance of rolling a 6, which is what you want. Kind of like Blades in the Dark. A 1 to 3 is a failure, a 4 to 5 is a mixed success, and a 6 is a complete success on each individual die. When you attempt an action such as survey or focus or sense, you have between 0 and 3 points in that action, and that's the number of dice you roll. So if you have 1 point in survey, you roll 1 die hoping you get a 4 or 5, or even better, a 6. But if you spend a drive point, you can add a die to that, rolling 2 die, getting 2 chances to roll a 6. You see, it's basically just like Blades in the Dark. But some of your actions may be gilded, denoted by a diamond to the left of the action. And if an action is gilded, before you throw your dice, you replace one of them with a special separate die of a different color. Say we're rolling survey from before and it's one of our gilded actions. So we only have 1 point there, so we would just roll 1d6, but we spend a drive point to get a second d6, and now we're rolling 2. Since it's gilded, we're going to roll 1 regular blue die, but we replace one of our dice with a special red die signifying that it's gilded. So say the blue die comes up with a 5, and the gilded red die also comes up with a 5. Now here's the thing, when we roll gilded dice, we can choose which one to accept. And if you choose to accept the result of the gilded die, you get back 1 point of drive. So what if we roll that blue and that red die, and the blue die is a 6, but the red die is a 4 for only a mixed success? You might choose to take the worst results so you can get back a point of drive that you can spend later. And it's that choice that makes it so compelling. And so how would this work in D&D? Maybe when rolling a skill check, you roll 2 d20s, not advantage or disadvantage, but if you choose to take the lower result, you get some kind of benefit for doing so. Maybe you regain a hit die, or maybe you get a point of inspiration, or heroic inspiration, or whatever we're calling it now, to be able to spend later. But the point is, you're choosing to take the lower roll, and that's what makes it interesting. Next is the catalyst. During character creation, you choose some basic details like your name, pronouns, your personal style, and a space for something called a catalyst. This is basically your reason for adventuring. In this game, it's your character's reason for joining the Candela Obscura. I think this can absolutely work in D&D. Put simply, what's your reason for being an adventurer in 3 or 4 short words? Yes, we know your parents were murdered by a dark wizard, and so you have to seek out the ruby necklace family heirloom that he stole from you, but you're not going to say all that to every random NPC that you meet who wants to know your story. But something as simple as the world needs more justice is a good catalyst, and something your character probably wouldn't mind telling most NPCs who just ask you what you're up to. It's a nice shorthand to give you simple and clear juice in role-playing situations. Third on our list is marks and scars. Instead of hit points, this game uses a wound sort of system where when you take damage, you accumulate wounds. And when you get 3 wound points, then that becomes a scar. 3 wounds per scar. If you get 3 scars, you're dead. But the interesting mechanic here is that when you acquire a scar, it actually makes a change to your abilities or your actions. You move a point from one action to another. So if you had 2 points in survey and 1 point in focus, after you acquire a scar, you would move a point, so now you have 1 point in survey and 2 points in focus. Maybe your eye was damaged and now you can't see as well, but now your other senses are heightened as a result of acquiring this scar. Pretty cool, huh? In D&D, I think this could also work. While there is a system for lingering injuries in the DMG, it's not really widely used. But I think if your character goes through an experience that's traumatic enough or physically damaging enough, it could permanently alter your PC. Maybe you get a cool scar on your face that deducts a point from your charisma, but it adds a point to your constitution because now in combat you behave recklessly because you feel like you can't feel the pain anymore. Whether temporary or permanent, I think this could spice up your character and give you some interesting new roleplay or even combat mechanics to mess around with. Next is the circle sheet. In Candela Obscura, the group is called a circle. Much like Blades in the Dark with the crew sheet, you have group abilities and resources in this game. But there's one specific item on the sheet I want to mention here, and that's the train function. You can spend group resources to train a character in a certain skill, which gives them a bonus die to roll during their next session. I like this because I've struggled with how to do training in 5e. Players will generally say something like, well, I want to get better at animal handling, and that seems like a reasonable request. But in general, you don't really become proficient in new skills in D&D. And if anyone could add a proficiency just by rolling well a couple times over a couple long rests, then pretty soon everybody would be proficient in everything. But I like this idea of getting a bonus die. Say you want to improve your animal handling, so you go out and you find a mentor and you spend a few long rests, some time and some gold working with this person to get better at that particular skill. But instead of getting proficiency in the skill, which could be overpowered, maybe you just get advantage on your next roll or your next 2 or 3 rolls depending on how well the training went. It's an interesting idea that I think I want to playtest a little bit more at my table. I'll report back my results in a pinned comment below if I ever get around to actually doing this. So that's 4 rules to steal from Darrington Press's new game Candela Obscura. You probably noticed it borrows very heavily from Blades in the Dark, and that's good with me because I love Blades in the Dark. I even made a video about it, which if you haven't seen, you absolutely should. And since I have you, how about a like and subscribe below? It really helps out. Until next time, I'm GM Jim. Now go explore that paranormal weirdness in the world.